So, some health expert at your last family dinner said your juicy steak is loaded with antibiotics and hormones, and you're insane for eating it, right? Well, welcome to the age of misinformation. Truth is, beef is one of the safest foods on the planet. Sounds crazy? They say the carnivore diet is dangerous, but they don't want you to know how strict the regulations are, how residue testing works, or why beef is actually cleaner than most of the food in your fridge. So who's pushing this myth, and why? Let's break it all down. But first, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, this is just the beginning. People love a good food scandal, and the idea that beef is loaded with antibiotics and hormones has been floating around for years. But here's the truth. This is one of those persistent meat myths that just won't die. In the United States, strict regulation makes it nearly impossible for unsafe levels of these substances to make it to your plate. Farmers and ranchers don't have free rein to pump cattle full of anything they want. Every ounce of beef sold commercially has to pass through residue testing, ensuring it meets federal safety standards before hitting the shelves. Think about it. If the government regulates everything from what's in your toothpaste to the ingredients in your morning cereal, why wouldn't it do the same for meat? The reality is, the USDA and FDA have their eyes on every stage of animal growth and production. If a cow receives antibiotics, there's a mandatory withdrawal period before it can be processed for food. And when it comes to hormones, the difference in residue between treated and untreated beef is so microscopic it's laughable. Yet somehow, the carnivore diet keeps getting dragged into these debates. Once upon a time, farmers did use antibiotics in cattle feed to speed up animal growth. That was decades ago, and it's been banned in the US for over 10 years. Today, antibiotics are only used when an animal is sick, just like a doctor prescribes medicine when you're fighting an infection. And here's the key. There are strict withdrawal periods before that beef ever reaches your plate. That means by the time you're grilling a steak, any trace of those medications has long been cleared from the animal system through natural metabolism. Regulations aren't just suggestions, they're laws that producers must follow, with regular residue testing ensuring compliance. No farmer wants their entire herd flagged for violations, and no processor wants to deal with contaminated meat that could fail inspection. This is why every piece of beef goes through rigorous screening before it ever makes it to the grocery store. The carnivore diet thrives on high-quality meat, and thanks to these rules, consumers can enjoy their steak without worrying about leftover antibiotics. Here's something most people don't realize. Antibiotics don't just linger in an animal's system forever. They have a half-life, meaning they naturally break down and get flushed out over time. Depending on the type, this can take anywhere from a few hours to a few days. That's why regulation requires strict withdrawal periods before an animal can be processed for food. By the time that beef reaches your plate, any trace of antibiotics is long gone, thanks to the body's natural metabolism and USDA's residue testing program. Think of it like taking cold medicine. You don't have it in your system forever, right? The same applies to cattle. This is why meat myths about antibiotic-filled beef simply don't hold up under scrutiny. The entire system is designed to ensure nutrition stays the priority. Whether someone follows a carnivore diet or just enjoys the occasional steak, they're not unknowingly consuming leftover antibiotics. The real question isn't about what's in the beef, but rather what people are missing out on by avoiding it unnecessarily. Some people worry that consuming beef from animals treated with antibiotics might contribute to antibiotic resistance in humans. But here's the kicker. Most of the antibiotics used in cattle are completely different from the ones prescribed for human medicine. That means even if tiny traces somehow remained in the meat, which they don't thanks to residue testing, they wouldn't impact human resistance. The carnivore diet often gets accused of promoting unhealthy choices, but in reality, the regulations around meat safety make this concern largely unfounded. If antibiotic resistance were caused by consuming beef, we'd be seeing a clear connection in public health data, but that's just not the case. The real issue? Overprescription and misuse of human antibiotics, not the regulated use in animal growth. People taking antibiotics for viral infections where they don't even work, or stopping treatment too soon are the real culprits. Beef lovers can enjoy their steaks without worrying about fueling some global superbug crisis. The real question is, if it's not antibiotics people should be worried about in meat, what's next on the list of so-called concerns? Here's another classic example of meat myths running wild. People hear that cattle receive hormones for animal growth and assume their steak is packed with artificial chemicals. But let's set the record straight. While some cattle do receive hormones to promote efficiency, these compounds don't just sit in the meat or fat. In fact, the difference between hormone-treated and untreated beef is just 0.6 nanograms of estradiol. To put that into perspective, that's less than a fraction of what's naturally produced in the human body every single day. Hormones are everywhere, in people, in plants, and yes, even in the food we eat. But the amount in beef, practically insignificant. The carnivore diet is all about maximizing nutrition without unnecessary concerns. And scientific data backs up the safety of hormone-treated beef. So while people are avoiding a perfectly good steak because of hormones, they might not realize that other foods they eat daily contain way more. And when you actually compare those numbers, the whole argument starts to fall apart. If people are worried about hormones in beef, wait until they hear about what's in tofu, soy milk, and flax seeds. A 3-ounce serving of beef contains just 1.9 nanograms of estrogen. Meanwhile, the same amount of tofu, a jaw-dropping 19 million nanograms, and a single ounce of flax seeds, 2.5 million nanograms. That's not a small difference. It's a night and day comparison, yet nobody seems to be panicking over soy lattes or flaxseed smoothies. The carnivore diet, on the other hand, gets unfairly criticized when, in reality, it provides one of the lowest hormone protein sources available. This is the kind of information that turns food fears upside down. People skipping beef because of hormones are unknowingly consuming plant-based foods loaded with estrogen-mimicking compounds. And let's not forget, phytoestrogens in soy have been linked to hormonal imbalances in men and women when consumed in excess. Meanwhile, a steak delivers essential nutrition without messing with the body's natural hormone balance. It's time to question the mainstream narrative, because when it comes to hormones, the real concerns might not be coming from where people think. Beef isn't just safe, it's one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. Packed with high-quality protein, essential vitamins, and critical minerals like iron and B12, it fuels the body in ways that many plant-based foods simply can't. Even the cheapest store-bought beef goes through rigorous residue testing to ensure it meets safety standards. Whether someone's eating grain-fed or grass-fed, they're getting a powerhouse of nutrition without worrying about leftover antibiotics or dangerous hormone levels. That's just another one of those meat myths that refuses to die. The carnivore diet thrives on simplicity and quality, and beef delivers both. Unlike ultra-processed foods filled with additives and artificial ingredients, meat provides pure, unprocessed fuel for the body. And the best part? It's naturally low in inflammatory compounds that many modern foods are loaded with. People worried about clean eating often overlook how pure and safe a steak really is. But once they realize that even the strictest food regulations ensure its quality, they start to ask, if beef isn't the problem, what else have they been misled about? Now that you know the truth, what are you going to do with it? Are you still buying into the fear-mongering? Or are you ready to embrace facts over fiction? The carnivore diet isn't just about eating meat, it's about making informed choices, cutting through the nonsense, and fueling your body with real nutrition. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, drop a comment below. What was the biggest myth you believed before today? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because there's a whole lot more to uncover in the world of food myths.